Hello, this is News for Scotland. I'm Hugh Stewart and this is Jeanette Hill. We're going to have a brief chat. We won't keep you too long. We're going to discuss some of the topics that have come up this week on News for Scotland and a couple of new ones that have just happened. And I think the new thing, Jeanette, since we did our last show, was the election in America. Were you surprised by that result?
I was absolutely stunned, but other people weren't. But I was stunned, and I've been asking some folk, my Canadian cousins and some American friends, how they feel about it and why. One interesting one was my friend in Milwaukee said she thinks there's a huge, big difference between city and main big towns, how they're voting, and the sort of countryside, the outside. It seems to be very much one lot was Democrat, the other lot are Republican. I don't know if that's...
It's very divided, isn't
yeah,
it? But,
yeah.
well, I've not been in America for a good long time. I don't know any Americans,
Yeah.
so I can only go from what people are telling me. And one report I heard this morning said the old not surprising, the old story is about the economy.
Yes, that's definitely
Because
the
of
case.
course,
Yeah,
now it's not Joe Biden's fault, but inflation and food prices in particular were very high, and they're now going down. Well, I expect they're going down in Britain, Europe. I expect they're going down in America. But I think what happens when there's something wrong with the economy is that the government gets the blame for it. The outgoing government is seen as a government which made the Americans feel that they had less dollars to spend. So it's not that everyone in America is a misogynist, everyone in America is a xenophobe. It's just that people in America think they'll have more dollars to spend if a new guy's in the White House.
I mean, my friend did say that she does a lot of community work, and she was talking to a lot of older people who voted, older women who were voting for Trump, and she asked them, she said, doesn't it bother you that he's, you know, they seem to be very Christian, that he was an adulterer, he's a rapist, allegedly, and you know, and he's fraudster and all that sort of stuff, convicted felon, and they all said, no, they all answered this saying, no, because all politicians are. Now that is really scary to think that that's the way people feel about
It's
politicians.
quite depressing,
It is, really. I mean, we think that the same sort of stuff could be aimed against Boris Johnson, but nobody took that on board to say that's not a reason why he should be elected.
No,
but can I just say also that Bernie Sanders, he before the election definitely thought that Harris was going to win. He thought she was going to win, but he was very much against her stance, and I think a lot of the lefty Democrats didn't come out and fight for it as much as they would have done if she was more against the Gaza.
Well, there are two things that seem to have counted against Harris, and one is that, American youth, in particular college students, feel the same as people here do
massively
about Gaza and what
Israel.
has been described as genocide, not by lefties, but by UN observers. You're just about shifting the entire population of Gaza, right? What is that? So, Harris was, of course, completely on the side of it. So is Keir Starmer, of course. It doesn't seem to be possible in big politics to say we are not defenders of the Israeli government. We're
Irish
not
government
defenders.
manages it.
So you can actually
and
have
a
a
few
dissident
other
view.
ones,
But that's one thing that definitely counted against him. I suppose Harris failed to mobilise potential supporters because she'd alienated them. And they don't seem to have taken that into account at all. And
Corbyn's Peace and Justice campaign, some of the points on that after the election were saying there was nothing really. There was a big load of stuff saying Kamala's a much better person than Trump. So it was a sort of personal thing rather than saying what's the policies, what actually policies were they putting out for the ordinary American citizens. People aren't interested in the fact that Beyonce's going to come and do a fabulous show for you. They're not really interested in that. They want to know what was the policies, and they are lacking in policies. There's a lot of stuff on trans issues and maybe some stuff on abortion rights. I mean, the abortion issue, personally, I am scared for American women on that issue with the Trump stuff. Obviously, the overturning of the Roe versus Wade stuff with Trump's supporters in the Supreme Court is had a terrible effect all over America on abortion rights. for American women, and that does definitely scare me for the future. You know,
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You've referred to the fact that Bernie thought she would win. So
Overwhelmingly.
So a lot of people here.
Yeah.
Now let's turn to John Swinney, saying at the start of this week he made it clear that the Scottish government would not welcome a Trump victory. It's nothing to do with us, but he said he hopes Kamala Harris would win. Then 2 days later he has to send a letter congratulating President Trump on his victory. Does that make Swinney and us look stupid?
No, I think he's obviously got to do this as a you know, leader of our country. Obviously, he's got to accept a democratic mandate that elected Trump. You know, it would be silly for him not to. Previously, he was just saying he obviously supported Harris. You know, I think most of us did.
We did report earlier on in the week, I think we're probably wrong as well. I put out a report on Monday or Tuesday to say that nearly every government in Europe actually wanted a Harris victory,
they did,
with the exception of Hungary and I think some of the other eastern states too. Viktor Orban is definitely a Trump supporter, and in fact so are the majority of the voters in Hungary. But apart from that, we quoted voters in Spain, Portugal, Germany, France. Everyone was saying they hope a Harris victory, and people thought there was going to be a Harris victory. It just shows what we know.
It's quite interesting though, like the Open Democracy campaign. They're sort of saying, really, well, where were the policies for the people to vote for? And looking at that, I think that was reasonable. There was a lot of kind of, like, if you like, liberal ideas on trans, on gay, etc. But there weren't really any solid policies to support the working people of America. And maybe if they had thought about that more, there was a big focus on she's a much more decent human being than Trump. You know.
Well, I think that's a lesson there for the left. Everywhere has the left forgotten about what it's supposed to be there for. You know, campaigning for a better life for ordinary people. Now, I'm not sure if a millionaire Trump is the guy to deliver a better life for ordinary people.
Say he isn't.
But the fact is that blue-collar Americans think they need change, and they think this is a guy that's going to change. Well, maybe in 4 years' time we'll find out if they were right or not. But the left has got to remember that's what it's all about. Basically, it's all about good high quality education, high quality welfare, the ability of ordinary people to live a better life, and not to look forward and think next year is going to be worse than last year. The life of my children is going to be worse than we had.
That's it.
If that's what everyone can see in the left, who's going to vote left?
I mean, similarly, I think that happened here with the Brexit vote. People didn't understand. Some people didn't understand that really ordinary people were deeply affected by mass immigration and affecting their from Europe. Although we've got more immigration now than we have had before Brexit. So, but they just took that as being racism, when actually it did affect their jobs and their future, their ability to rent places, their ability to get a decent, well-paid
You have to
contract.
The left has to have a better answer to the real problems that people are facing.
And that's the thing, that the protectionism, the old protectionism stuff that Americans are leaning towards with Trump, they think that's gonna work from. And it's also, I hate to say it, but it's playing the racist card again, isn't it? Really,
Well, there's no doubt about it did that, but it will affect us in Europe through it's now called anti-globalisation.
Yes,
so over the last 30 years, of course, the world has become increasingly interconnected, and Trump could be the guy to stop that. Is that a good thing? And of course, it's through tariffs. He's already threatening really severe tariffs, not only on China and Chinese imports, but also maybe in European imports. So we're going to feel big effects here.
This is the whiskey thing, isn't it?
Well, we obviously don't want whiskey tariffs, but I don't know if he's going to do that. The guy's Scottish, right?
Please don't
just
say
check
that.
the time here.
His mother is.
We've probably gone through. We were going to try and keep this short, okay? So I think we better move on to the next topic. Now, I was discussing with Jeanette earlier on university tuition fees, free in Scotland if you are Scottish or a European citizen. But of course, if a citizen from other parts of the UK wants to study in Scotland, you have to pay the English fees, which are £9,500 a year now, aren't they?
Yeah.
So why we're raising this thing, fees are free in Scotland, nobody has any plans to change that. I'm just wondering, with Labour now in power in London and saying we have to finance universities and we're going to put uni fees up again, it's at 9,500 and something. Is it sustainable for Scotland to continue to have fees at price zero and fees just an hour and a half down the road, 9,500. Is that going to continue?
Well, it seems to work in France, Germany, Romania, Norway, Denmark, Finland, tiny little poor Finland, manages it, Sweden, Austria. So Scotland is not unusual in Europe. It is perfectly normal in Europe. And Romania's got a lot less money than us, and they seem to manage it. They absolutely, if you talked to the average Romanian about we should be charging people to go and train to be a doctor or a dentist or whatever, and they've got loads of them. They do that very, very well, especially in the city of Yash. People would say, but surely our country needs doctors and nurses and dentists, etc. And that's why, if you're clever enough to manage to get into medicine, obviously you don't have to pay fees. They have various systems of it, grant systems for poor students, etc. You know, you don't automatically get a grant, but you don't come out of it with £40,000 in debt like you do, like many of them do, and more. In England, yeah. So it's a strange system as far as I can see in England. It's very American system,
I think so,
really.
yeah.
I mean, with people get to 52 and they've got $100,000 in education debt, to me it's mad, you know.
And that, in a way, goes back to Trump, because one of the things that Biden actually did was to cancel a debt for tens of thousands of Americans, because the idea was thousands of people are finding halfway through their careers, as you say, they can't make headway because they've still got this massive loan to pay off. So Trump just cancelled it for a lot of Americans, but he hasn't got any credit in the polls for doing that.
No, I didn't realise he'd done that. I know Michael Moore had put out a podcast asking him, requiring him to cancel the medical debt and cancel the education debt.
Well,
but
I don't know what he did with medical debt.
Yeah.
He certainly did cancel some fees, and we did a report earlier on this year about the fees in England and the amount of people who are in debt, and 40,000 is the lower end.
Yes,
there's lots of people starting their careers already with 50,000-60,000 pounds of debt. And by the way, the rates are not cheap. This student loans company is charging above market interest rates.
Because it's
Where's the
a company.
justification for that?
It's a company. It's a business. It's make profit, and also you think about it when you look at your junior doctors fighting for the hours they work. Really, they'd be better off working in Tesco's. Some of the hours they work for what they get, and they've not only got the massive debt. They've got to learn how to be a doctor. Pretty tough. The responsibility of people's lives, you know, on their hands, and plus we're saying, oh, by the way, in order to do this magnificent job, you know, which our society absolutely needs, in order to do this you have to pay a load of money, or your parents maybe, if they're rich enough to be able to pay your fees for you. Yeah,
there's so many issues here I'd like to raise, but I brought it up today because we're looking forward to the Scottish elections, and Sawar hopes to be First Minister, so he's not going to get in if he says vote for Labour for 9,500 university fees, but it's a strain on Labour. It's bound to be. How can Labour have fees on one side of the border and zero fees on the other? So that's going to put them under strain. But the reason why some people in Labour are, I think, going to argue that its time is gone and we have to start charging is because, well, there's two reasons. There's, first of all, universities have to be funded, and increasingly universities in Scotland are saying we need more money. The only source is to charge our students for it. And the other thing is access. Does it allow more people from poorer backgrounds or people whose families have never been to uni? Is it allowing those guys to get access? Now, there was a story in the Herald earlier on this week from one professor, I think it's James Mitchell, Edinburgh, saying there's no way we can improve access unless we start charging student fees. That seems to be a counterintuitive argument to me.
And this is the argument again, which just ignores completely what the norm is in Europe, that we don't charge fees. And also, we've got to look at, when you say universities want this, well, some at the top of universities, but the unions actually in universities are not arguing for that. They're on the side of the students.
And the NUS also solidly against it.
Solidly against the introduction of fees. Oh, what was interesting was Education Secretary, as you pointed out, for England, who was on Channel 4 News, and she actually said, if universities want to run their businesses in a certain way, as in increase their fees, then we shouldn't be interfering in that. So that really jarred with me. Universities are businesses, are they?
Well, they are in America. Yeah,
that's it. But not a thought like that all of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different way. That's it.
That's the European norm.
That's
Scotland
it.
follows the European model.
Absolutely,
England
that's what
follows the American model.
Yeah, that's
and we mentioned there the idea that well, the BBC often talks about the Education Secretary as if there's one. There's four of them, right? And the Scottish Education Secretary is Jenny Gilruth, as far as I'm aware. And that's why we have News for Scotland. By the way, we think that the news generally comes from London, but News for Scotland comes from right here, south side of Glasgow. So thanks for watching, and if you're new to News for Scotland, please click on that subscribe button on YouTube. And we're endeavouring to bring out the news as it reaches us. We're doing short news stories through the week, and increasingly we're going to be planning more features, and we've got one of them coming up. Maybe Jeanette will tell us about that at the end.
Got a few.
So thanks for watching, and please spread the word. We need to bring in, build up independent media in Scotland, and we are one of the people who are doing that. So give us a hand. Remember, it doesn't cost you anything if you click on that subscribe button, and if you hit the bell icon, you'll get a message whenever we've got a new story coming out, and there'll be plenty coming out next week. All right, let's move on to our final topic. Right, I did say we'll try and keep this short. Well, one of us is talking too much, Jeanette. Let's look at a story we covered briefly in one of my shorts. It's the government asking you, do we need another national park in Galloway? Okay, that consultation is out, and it's going to continue until just the start of the new year. So if you've got an opinion on that, you can tell the Scottish Government. So Jeanette, you're quite familiar with Galloway. What's your opinion on national parks in general, and should there be another one in the southwest?
Denise, what's her surname? I can't remember what her surname was. I've forgotten it.
This is the campaign group.
Yes, there's a campaign group who don't. Well, what they're saying is they just want to know the other national parks, did they actually meet their aims and objectives? They've not seen that happened, and they also are worried about the democratic process in it. They say right now you can sort of elect your councillors, and they have input into what's happening in your area, but if you've got a national park, it's a national park committee who are unelected, who are making decisions, and they're saying this is a worry for them, and they're asking for it to be proper consultation and proper input from the local people. Also, a big thing they're saying is like anybody that's ever been on the A75 going from Dumfries to Stranraer, it's already bombarded with all them big lorries going to Cairnryan to go across to Ireland, and really it cope with more traffic on it. So they're saying, the people are saying the infrastructure isn't there for it to be a national park, and they'll be held to pay for the local people. We produce an awful lot of food from Dumfries and Galloway, and surely that's a priority. Our food, our water, our milk, our loads of other agricultural things that we've got going out, of fish, all sorts of stuff there, and that should be maybe given a priority over.
It's a fantastic area. Anyway, incidentally, we advert. I visited the Stranraer Oyster Festival this year. That was just a few weeks ago, and that's fantastic. So watch out for that next year. That was great.
It is a beautiful area.
It's a tremendously productive area. That festival's there because I didn't notice until I went, but there's a huge oyster production in Loch Ryan. It's a massive.
They've made that happen again, didn't they? Because it was cleared out by earlier.
But anyway, I digress. But let's look at why we have national parks in the first place. Do you know who started national parks in America? It was a Scottish guy called John Muir. Now this would be about 1900 or so. John Muir went to America as a young man, and he studied science, and he was always fond of nature. From Scotland, he loved East Lothian. And he combined his knowledge of science and his love with nature to become really, I suppose, what you'd nowadays call an ecologist. Now, he's responsible for the start of the national parks in America, the Yosemite and the others. That was all John Muir's doing.
They're great things, aren't they? Those, I don't know.
Well, what they're for? Well, I suppose you could have the same argument there. What's it for? Because Yosemite would be there whether it was a national park or not. It was all, in his view, it was about nature protection, and it was about, in fact, he was against too much encroaching of the city into the countryside, but we have to have somewhere to live. So there's always that debate, isn't there, about nature or economic growth. And in fact, Muir was involved in the controversy about piping water from Lake Tahoe down to San Francisco and LA, and he was against it. He said, let's leave nature alone. But of course the cities have got to get their water from somewhere. So there's always that debate, isn't there, that balance. Now, so why do we have national parks? Is it nature conservation? Partly it's that. Or is it tourism? Is it to manage tourism, as you said? Some over-tourism means some spots just get crowded. In this debate I've been looking at this week, people often talk about the North, what do you call it, that North 500 thing. I've never done it, but people from England come up and drive very fast for 500 kilometres across the top of Scotland to see how
people
fast they can get there.
I think also from the lowlands, to be fair there.
I don't know anyone's done it. But anyway, it's a marketing ploy, isn't it? And, well, people are saying, actually somebody said this morning, it's a disaster, the North Country, what do you call it, the NC 500, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
People there are saying it's a disaster, but the marketing people behind it will say it's a huge success. So
that's it. The tourists, I mean, they're just about trying to charge them some money, weren't they? The camper vans and the tourists to go, but there was a big outcry saying they didn't want to be charged £40 or whatever. But you think the impact on the local folk, it must be horrific. And the roads, and who's paying for that? The local folk are paying through their council and taxes, etc. like that.
So there's big debates about the national park. So what there was, incidentally, the whole debate was brought to the Scottish Parliament this week through the Petitions Committee. I don't know if you know this, but when the Scottish Parliament was set up, there's this procedure where you can write a new law. You write to the Petitions Committee and you say, I think the government should take this up. And there's several people were yesterday, I think, at the Petitions Committee in Scotland from Lochaber. There's a group amusingly called Lochaber No More, who are saying the national park hasn't achieved its they don't think it has achieved its aims. So what they're at the committee to say is, we want the Scottish Government to do an honest assessment of what were the aims and has the national park actually delivered them. And we want to know about that before we start having another one down in Galloway, right?
And they want to say, is there going to be some sort of democratic input there rather than just be National Park Committee and they make the decisions and you don't really get a say in it. And that all just seems to make sense. There is going to be a consultation in Stranraer on this one, and we'll put it on our Facebook page when that is. It's coming up soon. And
I'll put a link to the discussion yesterday in the Scottish Parliament with those folk from Lochaber and from Galloway, and they're there. So it sounds like national parks are a great idea, but a lot of people on the spot think, no, I don't know, maybe we should look at this a bit more carefully.
Yeah, that's it. A good idea, as long as people get what they're told they're going to get, and that they get some sort of input into it.
Does it deliver, and is it democratic, or do we need another appointed committee to run parts of our national life? Okay, that's about it. Yeah, that was our 25-minute, 10-minute talk. I'm going to have somebody standing over there with a stopwatch next time we do this, I think, Jeanette.
Cut.
Okay, so I'll very briefly bring this to a close. So thanks for watching today. So if you are new to News for Scotland, we have features coming out from time to time, whenever we can really. We're volunteers, and we do this because we think Scotland needs new media, and because Scotland has a lot of stories to be told, and as we can, we'll get round them. So we'll be back next week with some more short stories from the news from Scotland, and Jeanette and the team will be bringing out some special features. So thanks for watching. So from me, Hugh, and from Jeanette, that's all, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.